In Manchester, a rare educational experiment is being carried out. Local schools have been challenged to boost grades in GCSE English, Maths and Science, but they must find an approach they haven't tried before. The schools are under enough pressure without the added hassle of having to come up with something new and innovative. They're in East Manchester, and the pupils come from areas that have long been neglected, many from families that have only recently been settled. At least 40 languages are spoken in some schools. Just to make things more difficult, the spring term is coming rapidly to an end, so they've got to act quickly to make any difference to exam results. In this third and final episode, we find out how well the innovations have worked. We continue to follow two heads of department as they rise to the challenge, helped by their keenness, supported by their heads, and all importantly, boosted by a handout of £2,500. Was it really a good idea to take nearly 80 pupils out of school and into a college for 3 days? And was it worth adopting a come-as-you-please approach to revision classes? We'll also be hearing from innovation expert Dr. Paul Sternberg. What's his honest opinion?
They're paying lip service to the engagement of the parents, but I don't know how far the parents are being engaged.
The initiative has come from the new East Manchester Education Team, which found the money through the Excellence in Cities programme.
I know some people out of education won't think that £2,500 isn't a great deal of money, but it is a large amount of money. And for the heads of department to say we've got this money to spend on raising attainment in this short amount of time, that is new. It rarely happens.
At Cedar Mount High School, the head of English and Media, Paul Barker-Matthews, has been longing to take Year 11 pupils out of the classroom and into a student environment. The regeneration windfall gives him his chance, and he makes plans to take over 3 rooms at the Openshaw campus of Manchester College of Art and Technology, or ManCat. After just 4 weeks, his department is ready to start 3 days of seminars at what's dubbed the Conference.
And we're going to talk about this idea of alternative interpretations, but also these guys were writing poems at certain times when things, in the same way as you might write a poem that's influenced by what's happening to you, to your family, with your friends. Hi, Miss.
Hi, sir. Sorry to bug you. Did you bring the lined paper?
No, because no one asked me to. We've got Big A3, if that's any good.
Yeah, I'll take
it. Yeah?
Better
than nothing. What's that, mate? I didn't know I had to bring in a lined paper.
But the advantages outweigh the disadvantages, you think?
Absolutely. We've got classrooms like this at school, but we don't have an environment like this at school. We don't have an atmosphere like this in school. The pupils have become students. The teachers have become lecturers. Many have joined the gym, even more have joined the library. Some will be in the gym at lunchtime today. They've got full run. The smokers, if they want to smoke, they can have a smoke. It's college.
In contrast to this intense 3-day push to improve standards, a 12-week approach is being taken by the maths department at St Peter's Roman Catholic High School. The department is putting the onus on the pupils to seek the help they need by holding drop-in sessions. For pupils more likely to drop out than drop in, there are special one-to-one sessions as well. The sessions began 2 weeks ago, and a total of 22 pupils have sought help out of the 100 being targeted. But demand has tailed off during the days before the Easter break. Head of Maths, Fiona McGarvey, is still waiting for her first visitor as this lunchtime session draws to a close.
Fiona, I know that some pupils might be scared off by the camera, but no customers this lunchtime?
No. There hasn't been every day either, so...
Because we were here on the first day and there was quite a flurry of interest. But
I tend to find Monday, there was a fair few yesterday. I've already had 3 came at break today instead of lunchtime because something else was going on at lunchtime today, so they came at break time. But it's the nature of the sessions.
At both schools, money is being devoted to study packs. The St Peter's Maths Department wants parents, as much as pupils, to be actively involved in using the packs when overseeing revision at home. Talk of a special evening for parents to encourage participation didn't lead to anything, as pressure on time mounted before the end of term. So instead of receiving an invitation, parents are now more likely to get a phone call.
Just phoning to see if you're aware of the maths work your son's supposed to be doing at home at the minute. Yeah, I've seen the study pack, but I haven't really had a look at it.
There is a letter inside the pack explaining to you about the pack, and it explains what work they're supposed to be doing on a weekly basis. Don't forget you can phone if you need to. Phone us on the normal school number. Okay, thank you.
Is that sort of typical of the sort of things you're saying to parents?
Yes, some of the parents I know better than others, so it's a bit easier to speak to some of the parents, but yeah, that's basically.
And are parents getting involved, do you think?
Yeah.
And this is just a sort of spot check to make sure it is home?
Yeah. So the classes have all been told now that there'll be random phone calls home to check.
Meanwhile, at the Cedar Mount conference, it's clear both students and teachers are relaxed and enjoying college life.
Young men, revving the car 100 miles an hour, driving down the motorway, yes. Okay. Calidor said, imagine driving this car, drilling it 100 miles an hour down the motorway. If you wrote that in your answer, the examiner, if it's a guy, would probably go as well. And the women would probably go, yeah, okay, guy, humour. It would work. It would get you the marks.
He doesn't treat her like a wife. How does he treat her? Like a possession. Like a possession? Why do we know he treats her like a possession?
We don't know her name.
We don't know her name? The whole purpose, really, of the 3 days is to consolidate everything that we've been trying to do in term time in 3 days, but also looking at generic question typing that comes up in exams.
As well as more relaxed, some students are also slightly fitter.
Before you came here, had you been to a gym?
No, I haven't, no.
So what do you think of it?
It's pretty good.
So it's made you think about your fitness as well as your English?
Yeah.
All the projects will be evaluated after the exam results. In the meantime, we asked Dr. Paul Sternberg, who specialises in education and innovation, to give us his opinion.
What about your starving family? Yeah? Are you going to let somebody else take that job? Yeah. Then you're going to die and your family's going to die.
How do you measure
just as much as
the impact of something like this?
Well, for the funding, it's going to be objectively evaluated by have they raised themselves by one grade. So the D to the C being the that's the raison d'etre. But I think it's beyond that. I mean, we've been doing interviews. Students have been filming. Students from lower school media groups have been filming interviews over the last 2 days. How has it been for you? What have you learned from it?
How do you think this has been different to high school?
Well, here we have more independence. We get to go out more breaks and stuff, and the teachers look at us differently.
After seeing all the classrooms, it's time for our expert to give his verdict.
I am impressed. I think it's a very, very good experiment, and that's what it is. It is an experiment. It's really shifting some of the conventional approaches. The impracticalities are of a very practical nature. It's busing everybody here. It's looking after everybody. It's the food aspect. In terms of learning, I think the richness and the experience of learning far exceeds the impracticalities.
What about the knock-on effect on other subjects, though?
And interestingly enough, and the pupils have said this as well, is that they're actually taking a lot of their learning and they're applying it to their other subjects. They're coming back reinvigorated, re-energised with new approaches to learning. So I think, again, the negative impacts are outweighed by the positive impacts.
Will St. Peter's School get such a positive report?
What you're trying to do with this drop-in scheme is give students a sense of ownership around the subject, aren't you?
Yeah.
For them to take responsibility for their own study.
And make them responsible for their grade, that it's down to them, not down to whichever teacher they've got.
What I'm trying to understand is why is this different, say, from normal homework or a normal kind of lesson type of situation?
I think partly because they've been given so much to take home, so they've been given the revision books. Normally they have to buy those. They've got workbooks, and we've got some of the parents on board, so the parents have got the books they can look up, they can see what they're doing, and they've been clearly laid out for them what they have to do each week.
Right.
Again, Paul is impressed, but with one important reservation.
They're paying lip service to the engagement of the parents, but I don't know how far the parents are being engaged. And I think that's where it could become, truly quite innovative by engaging
You don't think phone calls are enough?
I think the phone calls sound quite, they're kind of following up. There's not a sense of well, look, we're doing this together and engaging the parents in a process together. It's almost like, well, we're checking up on the parents. I think it's a real pity they didn't do the event. I think it would have been very good to have done an event and to really have created some sense of ownership with the parents. Having said that, it's still a very good project, and what's interesting about it, again, which many other schools can learn from, is the use of multi-layered resources. So it's not simply having this drop-in session, but it's also using a pack. It's branding the pack, so it's the purple pack. The other thing I think is very important about this exercise is that these drop-in sessions aren't simply about maths. They're kind of diagnostic sessions. They almost are like, surgeries. And I think it's very important that the teachers do take that pastoral and coaching role.
The Cedar Mount Conference ends with a session for all students in the lecture theatre, where they meet Mancat's head of sixth form, Larry Wild.
Nobody knew that you were Cedar Mount students. You've behaved in such an exemplary manner that people just have not noticed you're from Cedar Mount. So I'd like to say a sincere thank you for doing that. Because what happens then is that nobody says, oh no, not more school kids. They know you're going to behave like young adults. So I'd like to applaud you.
All right. Okay. To the coaches, Cedar Mount. And don't spare the horses.
One of the things about the kids in inner city Manchester is they never know what they're missing. Coming here like this with all this around suddenly makes them realise that they're entitled to this. It is an entitlement for them, and so they should be demanding it. And it helps raise their aspirations of what they can do.
The Cedar Mount teachers marked the end of the conference with their own debriefing session.
There weren't as many dramas as I was thinking, to be honest, were there? It went really smooth. I think the first day hiccups, the technical hiccups and the being in the new space, but I think after morning break, especially, they'd realise we can sign up for the gym, we can go anywhere. Once they'd realised and acclimatised, I think then we relaxed a lot, didn't we?
I had a couple of opportunities to teach in 2 different classes, and it was just the same vibe in both classes. The students were there to learn, they'd come to us to learn, rather than in school where you've got to be in that classroom.
Did you find as well, what I found is that, normally in a classroom environment, when you feel like you're just spoon feeding everything, they suddenly became much more proactive as learners and wanted to actually do things. They were much more independent learners.
Although the proof of the innovation pudding won't be known until the exam results, it's clear just from the reaction of the pupils that the initiative has made a positive impact.
Rolling and action.
Oh, it was brilliant. I had a really good time. I learned really new things and it made me feel confident about college life.
We've got more facilities here because we've got a gym and a swimming pool, and everyone treats you more like students here.
I feel like the experience has done me really good because as we all know, we spend most of our days in school doing English. Getting out of school has been a bit of a change and it's really helped a lot.
And what about the learning? Have you learnt anything from these 2 days? Have you found it useful?
Yeah, I found it very useful. Mr. Matthews is a very good teacher.
We'll edit that out.